Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Perfectionism Project, a podcast full of perfectionism advice for entrepreneurs. My name is Sam Laura Brown. I help entrepreneurs release their perfectionism handbrake so they can get out of their own way and build a fulfilling and profitable business. I'm the founder of the Perfectionists Getting Sh group coaching program, which is otherwise known as PGSD. And for even more perfectionism advice to help you with your business, you can follow me on Instagram at Perfectionism Project. Okay, so I just want to do a quick little episode on something that I wish I had heard earlier in my business journey. And so, what I'm going to do in this episode is share what that is, why it matters. I'm going to share a story as well that is going to help demonstrate all of this and why it's important. But this is so important at this time of year if you're thinking about your goals for next year, particularly if you are wanting to achieve something you haven't achieved before, then this is going to be super helpful. And again, I just wish someone had shared this with me and that I had the distinction that I'm going to be giving you in this episode. So you might be familiar with the saying, what got you here won't get you there. This is a saying that I had heard from different people in the business space and in the leadership space and kind of like in that sort of world. And the context it had been shared with me in, whether it's through podcast episodes or content that I was consuming, I don't think anyone ever directly said it to me in like a one-on-one setting. I think it was in content that it was like, if you have this big goal or you have a goal that you're trying to achieve, you need to take a different approach because what got you here to where you are today is not going to get you to where you want to go. And also, different versions of this can kind of be like, nothing changes if nothing changes, that kind of sentiment. And I don't know, I've probably even said that kind of sentiment before on the podcast because at some point, because I thought that, like, I thought this, I heard, okay, what got me here won't get me there. And then here's what my perfectionist brain did with that. What my perfectionist brain did, and then I'm going to tell you the actual context of that saying and how it became popular because it's very different. Like when I looked it up, like where did that saying actually come from? I was very surprised because the way I was thinking about it was actually very different to how it was intended. But for me, when my perfectionist brain heard this saying, what got me here won't get me there, which, okay, that feels reasonable. That feels logical. Like if I want to create different results, I need to do different things. Then what happened for me was that I decided to change everything. And I see this so often coaching so many perfectionist entrepreneurs inside Perfectionists Getting Shit Done, that when we have something new that feels big that we want to achieve, our perfectionist brain goes into this mindset of like, I need to do more, I need to do it bigger, I need to do it better, I need to do it optimized, I need to do it perfect. And we dismiss all of the sufficiency of what we're currently doing. We dismiss all the things that are working. And so, to give you an example of this, at the end of 2022, I had the thought, what got me here won't get me there. I've taken us as far as I can go. We have to do things differently. I've talked about this year before on the podcast. Like I've talked about 2022 before many times because it's such a pivotal year for me of learning. 2022, 2023, and 2024, because the contrast of 2023 and 2024 compared with 2022 was so stark that I had to sit up and pay attention. And the results that I had in those years was so different. And my experience of business that I had in those years was so different that I have done so much self-study on it and gotten coaching on it as well, and really come to understand the thoughts and feelings I was having that created the difference between those years. So in 2022, the business made $600,000. I had a $300,000 profit, and I also paid myself, I think, $100,000 or more than that. So when that's taken into consideration, there was about maybe $200,000 of expenses, roughly. This is all just top of my mind numbers. And then in 2023, the revenue was around 300,000, so half, and the expenses were 450,000. So a lot more than double. And I was working harder, and I had a full-time marketing manager as well. That's part of why the expenses were so much more. And then in 2024, I let the marketing manager go. I took back on the marketing myself and was just trying to get the business back to the place where I wanted it to be. And so I've looked at, okay, the thought of like, why did I hire a marketing manager role? Why did I think I wasn't the one to be doing the marketing and to be managing that and to be doing the selling? And when I trace it back, I had the thought of like, I've gotten us as far as I can go. You can literally listen to a past episode at that time when I was talking about the hire that I was wanting to make. I say that in the episode. I say like, we have big goals. Exactly. Pay attention. We have big goals. I think the goal that I was working towards was having maybe a $5 million per year business within 3 years or something like that. We have big goals. I've been doing a relatively good job getting us here, but like if we want to achieve that big goal, I'm not the one to take us there. I'm not the one in terms of marketing who has the ability to do that. I'm not clear on the messaging, even though I just spent that whole year figuring out the messaging for PGSD. I didn't see the sufficiency of it. So I was like, I don't know the messaging. I don't know. I want someone to just tell me what the messaging is. I want someone to just tell me like what to do, because what I'm doing isn't working, even though it was working really well. There was so much sufficiency in that year. I was rested, I was connected, I was supported, and I had a goal of 1 million. And my brain, because we ended up making 600,000, but we did a launch in December that wasn't planned because I decided to close down PGSD for sale for the first half of 2023. It's the kind of decision you make when there's uncertainty in your personal life and you feel like you can't handle it. And for me, that was going to be having 3 kids under the age of 2 because our twins were due in February. So like I was in anticipation of that uncertainty. And so subconsciously trying to keep the business smaller and safer and like within what felt more manageable. But having this belief that I had to do things differently to achieve something different meant that I dismissed all of the things that were working. And in 2023, I essentially found a way to stop doing all of the things that were working, or almost completely stop them. Because of this thought, then I think about, okay, tracing it back again, why did I have the thought that I've taken us as far as I can with the marketing? Like, was there a thought that gave birth to that thought, if you will? And one of those thoughts was just like the philosophy, the idea that what got you here won't get you there. And if you want to achieve something big, like you have to do something different. And the way my perfectionist brain interpreted that is you have to do everything different, and that this relates to your strategy and to your approach. And it goes into that like all or nothing thinking of like, let's throw the baby out and the bathwater and all of it. And like, let's start over again and start from scratch. So 2023, there was a lot of time spent with my marketing manager, and we were like, okay, let's figure out, like, we need a good foundation for growth for the business. I already had one. We already had one. But I didn't see that. So I was like, hey, we got to figure out the messaging. We've got to figure out the angle. We've got to figure out this like launch formula. I already had it. I developed it in 2022. It worked really well. But having all of this thinking of like, we need to do things completely differently had me stop doing so many things that were working. And there was an interview I listened to maybe 2 years ago now, quite a long time ago. And it has stuck with me ever since. What this person said, his name is Graham, or in an Australian accent, it would be Graham Stephan, I believe. Graham Stephan. He's a YouTuber and he does like real estate related stuff. And he was being interviewed, and it just struck me when he said it, because this is like the opposite of the thought that what got me here won't get me there. He said, oh, I just do the same thing I've always been doing, which for him was making YouTube videos. And now I just do it in front of more people. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, so he's actually doing the same thing, There's just more of an audience. And of course, there are things that naturally change along the way in terms of strategy and things like that. But the core of it, him recording videos, he's still doing that. And now I'm just doing it in front of more people. And he's benefiting from the compounding of him recording those videos for years after years after years and having that. And so that for me just kind of like opened the door on this idea of like, so I don't have to do everything differently. Like I don't have to have this completely different strategy. And now I have to like launch properly, whatever that means. And like now I have to have like this funnel and we have to do ads and we have to take this completely different approach and I have to have a different mentor and like I was trying to do all the things different instead of the thought, which I now think instead of what got me here will get me there. And I know if you're listening to this and you like this podcast, you're someone who loves learning and growing and developing, and you might hear that and you might think, but I want to change things, but I want to improve things, but I want it to be different. And what we want to look at with this is like the nuance of it, of what got me here will get me there, is essentially like most of what got me here, or like the core of, is probably the better way to word it. The core of what got me here will get me there. So I looked up this saying, what got me here won't get me there. I looked it up because I'd never actually Googled or done any kind of research on like, where does that saying come from? When the person who initially said that, and I'm sure lots of people have said that in different ways and whatever, but it's commonly attributed to, there's a book with that title, What Got Me Here Won't Get Me There. What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And so I was learning about that book, and that book is not saying completely change your strategy, completely change everything you're doing. That book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, is about saying please to people. It's about like relationships that you have with your employees. It's about a completely different topic to what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be essentially a book on like, here's why you need to completely change everything you're doing in terms of your strategy. And it's not that at all. And you can Google it if you want, or ask ChatGPT to tell you about it. That book is, and that saying actually has nothing to do with what I thought it had to do with. But my perfectionist brain took that and went, okay, basically stop everything. So stop doing the marketing yourself. Stop doing the selling. Start having someone else do it. Start having a different structure for launches. Stop selling the program that you sell, that's the offer you have. Start doing a course instead. So that's when we did the power planning course that came out then, because I was having this sort of like, it's not working. And so maybe that will work. Maybe I can sell that, instead of seeing like all the sufficiency of, in that year, we had 125 people sign up for Perfectionists Getting Shit Done, who were getting incredible results and loving the program. And I was loving coaching in it. Like there was just so much that was working. And the core of that, and how I was thinking and feeling, that had me do those things and had me create that result, that is what I want to continue doing. That is what I want to keep. I want to keep that, instead of, okay, well, it got me here, but it won't get me there. And so I was coaching a one-on-one client, and this came up, that for her, she has achieved her goal for this year of $100,000, which is the first year she's ever done that massive milestone goal that she achieved. And we were setting and talking about setting her goal for next year. And what was coming up for her was like, I need to optimize everything and anything. I need to do all this optimizing. I need to be doing all of these new things I haven't done before. And I was just saying to her, that's not how it works. What got you to here, to 100K, if we just have you be super clear on the thinking and feeling that created that, and the actions that are a reflection of that, so that we can see them in your power planning, that you're still recording videos, that you're still like connecting and doing the things that you do, you will naturally make more than 100K next year. Like, that's just the natural momentum that you're in if you continue to do what's working. And I was like, I wish I had seen so clearly for me all the things that were working, not just in terms of actions, but like what was the thinking and feeling for me that was working in 2022. And I talk about this in the last 2 episodes I did on the annual mindset snapshot and the annual mindset forecast. And we've just done that work in PGSD and I'm obsessed. And those calls are incredible. So if you're a PGSD, make sure you listen to those replays and do that work. It is like my favorite teaching that I have done for the whole of the year. I just love everything that was shared. So with that said, we want to have you being clear on what is the core of what got me here. And you might be like, I'm not here yet. Like, I'm not where I want to be yet. And at 600K, I wasn't where I wanted to be yet either. Hence why my perfectionist brain was like, okay, well, nothing's working. Let's do it all over. Instead of like, okay, this is actually a result I want. And let's keep having that result compound and me keep having momentum. But my perfectionist brain was like, well, I haven't arrived yet. So there isn't yet any sufficiency. Instead of like, oh my God, so much is working. Let's just keep having it work. So the core of what got me here, the core of what got me to where I am now, the core of what got me to that year in 2022 were things that I had been doing since the beginning. I had in the beginning been doing them more insecurely, more hesitantly, with more time needed to do it. But for me, when I started my business, it started as a blog and I just wanted to document the stuff I was learning about, the stuff that I was figuring out, the stuff that I was doing. And even though I was too scared to share my own opinions initially, I didn't even feel like I had an opinion. I just share like, I thought this person's thing was helpful and I thought this person's thing was helpful. And then as I began to develop confidence and I figured out about perfectionism and I started doing the things that I teach inside PGSD to get out of my own way and to show up more and to be comfortable being visible and all of that, that like I have just been doing the core same thing, which is exactly what I'm doing in this episode right now, which is just me having insights and sharing them. That's essentially what I do. I just now, as Graham Stephan said, I do it in front of a bigger audience than I did initially, but I'm doing the same core thing. I'm documenting and sharing my own thinking and my own mindset shifts and my own things that I'm developing, tools that I've developed, like power planning to figure out things for myself and sharing that. And then people find it helpful. So I share more things like that and develop more things. And now I have clients as well, or I've had for many years now, but I didn't initially for the first 5 or 6 years of my business. I didn't have any clients. I didn't sell anything at all for the first 3 years. Like, so it was just really me documenting stuff. But the core of what I do, that will get me there, that will get me to where I want to go, is me showing up and sharing stuff like this. That is the core thing. Me coaching myself before I even had a word for that. Me coaching myself, me coaching others, sharing those insights here on the podcast, because that's the format I want to. I could do it in a different format. It's not about like podcasting works or YouTube works or whatever. It's just like what works is me being connected. What works is me sharing insights that resonate so deeply that you're like, well, if she's figured that out, then I definitely want to work with her and have her guide me to figure out how I can actually get out of my own way and why I'm getting in my own way and how to release my perfectionism handbrake, because she's done it and she thinks similarly to me. So if she's done it, then maybe I can do it and I want her guidance. That is how I built my business. But then in 2023, because I didn't see the sufficiency of that, I stopped recording new episodes. I stopped doing a lot of coaching in PGSD. We had PGSD coaches. Our PGSDs were loving them. So they're still getting results, but I then wasn't connected to the coaching, to the power of coaching, to hearing all the questions that PGSDs ask on a coaching call that then spark for me a piece of content like this. I didn't have that spark, like a key activity for spark for me. And I teach spark content in PGSD. A key spark creation activity for me is coaching. My coaching in PGSD, coaching my one-on-ones, getting coached myself, my own self-coaching, that for me really sparked so much that I want to share. But I wasn't doing that. I was so busy trying to figure out how to be a good CEO, how to be a better leader, how to have a funnel, like all these other things instead of the core, what got me, what got me there and would have got me further was continuing to show up and share stuff in the way that I naturally do it. And the natural way I do it has developed as I have changed my thinking and as I have developed new skills and all of that. I'm able to do it in a way now that I wasn't able to do it before, but it isn't that different to my very first podcast episodes. And so I just wanted to articulate this message in this way. I've talked about it in other contexts and from different angles, but I'm just going to figure out as many ways as I can to say it until it lands and until you're like, I get it now. When we're in this thinking that what got me here won't get me there, we make decisions that have us stop doing what's working and we decide to do something completely new or make big changes all at once. So for example, this morning on the planning call that we did in PGSD for 2026, I was coaching one of our PGSDers and we were going through the exercise and setting her goal and things like that. And what came up was that she wants to have a location independent business model. And she has made $40,000 in 2025 and she wants to make $60,000 in 2026. And that feels like a big stretch for her. And so when we looked at it, that she was in such a rush to try to get, especially to the location independence, that it was having her think like, I need to do things completely differently instead of, this is what I said to her of like, we actually want to have you have this goal set up in a way so you can continue to make revenue in the way you know how to make revenue. And then over the year, you can develop out like the bits that allow you to have location independence. And then you can shift into that new business model instead of just trying to stop your current business model cold turkey and now expect yourself to have not only a new business model, but also more revenue than you've ever made before and have it be from a new business model. That's the kind of decision that we make when we're swimming around in the sea of thinking that is what got me here won't get me there. Instead of, let's keep doing what's working. And if we want something else to be working instead, then we do that thing while continuing to do what's working. And then we make a transition across. But we don't want to like go into this, I need to do it bigger, better, optimize, completely change everything. I need a new system. I need a new hire. I need like, our perfectionist brain loves that. There's so much hope and optimism that comes from, I'm going to do everything new. I'm going to have a do-over. I'm going to finally get it right this time. I'm going to finally do it properly. Instead of, and I was talking about this inside PGSC when we did the annual mindset snapshot call to look at like what's been your main story, your main thought and feeling for 2025. When it comes to sufficiency, we need to practice as a muscle being able to see what's working, being able to see what's sufficient. The definition of sufficient is to meet the need. Our perfectionist brain goes into, oh, if I'm doing something sufficiently, I'm doing it subpar. I'm doing the bare minimum. Instead of seeing like the smart thing to do is to do something sufficiently so you can move on to something else and do that sufficiently. Our perfectionist brain is like, I must do this perfectly and flawlessly. And if that means doing everything else completely insufficiently, that's okay, because I really want to like just try and quiet the voice in my brain that is yelling at me that this isn't good enough. And to try and do that, I'm going to just focus on this until I can get it just right. Or if I can't do that, if that's too overwhelming, then I'm just going to disconnect. I'm not going to do it at all. I'm going to have another new exciting idea. I'm going to focus on something else. I'm going to switch business idea. I'm going to switch niche. I'm going to switch something to get out of the discomfort of feeling like I can't do this as well as I want to do it. And maybe I won't be able to do it. And maybe people won't like it. And maybe people won't like me. Our perfectionist brain loves going into this idea of I need to do everything optimally. That's the bare minimum. Optimal is the bare minimum. And this idea of if I want to create a new result, I have to do things completely differently than before. So I will wrap up by saying if you are, just be aware of this, if you are in 2026 having a plan that involves you doing a complete 180 or doing a lot of new things, it's not to say you can't do new things, but you want to keep your eye on what are the things that are working, even if I'm not at the results I want to have yet. What are the things that are working? And what do I need to put in place? And power planning makes this so easy to just see super clearly. What do I need to put in place to make sure that while I have some focus on the new thing, that I'm keeping my eye on the core thing that's actually creating the results so I can continue doing that while I develop out the new thing. Instead of, I'm going to stop the current thing cold turkey, or I'm going to supplement it with something that's insufficient and switch over to something else. So for me, for example, we still release podcast episodes in 2023. But part of what works for me is podcast episodes is partly how I synthesize stuff. You can probably tell that. But I have so many ideas, and so much of the intellectual property I create comes from me recording episodes. So even though there was no immediate negative impact from it, I wasn't further developing my body of work during that time, because podcasting and having new podcast episodes, and this is why we're doing 2 episodes a week in 2026, and they're all going to be new episodes. They're not going to be republished ones from the podcast. Though I love that this year I did share a lot of best of the podcast episodes because there are so many to choose from. So that a lot of the ones that I think are really core and essential, you can just scroll back recently and find them. But what I really want to do in 2026 is continue developing my body of work, my ideas that I have, and how I articulate them and put them into tools for you and frameworks for you to be able to use, whether you're a podcast listener, whether you're inside Perfectionist Getting Shit Done, that I'm able to continue developing my work. And that comes from coaching, self-coaching, and then having that go out in a podcast episode. And also creating tools and things that I share inside Perfectionist Getting Shit Done as well. That's a key part of it. So even though it is okay, it's more than okay, and it's in many cases completely sufficient to share a past podcast episode, what wasn't sufficient was for me to essentially have pretty much 3 years of me not really recording new podcast episodes, and the impact that has had on my own ideas, on my own connection to my work, on my own connection to the results that I'm creating for myself, and all the different things that has had a compound effect that has meant that I now am needing to recover things. I'm going to do an episode on my reflection of the year, like what my annual mindset snapshot was for 2025, so that you can hear a bit more about this. But being able to see for me how this thinking of what got me here won't get me there has had such a ripple effect, such a compound effect in my business, that it had me make decisions from that thinking that I had. I then made decisions that have had big impacts on my business, how it operates, how supported I am in the business, so many different facets of it, the revenue. And now I'm in the period where I can see that so clearly. And now I'm returning to the thinking and feeling that creates the results that I want, from a place of really now understanding the sufficiency of it. And also having the patience that then needs to build momentum again and compound. And just because I have that awareness doesn't mean I click my fingers and overnight everything has changed. There is a building of momentum process. And I have been in that process for a long time. And I'm going to keep being in that process for as long as I need to be. I'm not in a rush. I am not in a rush to try and be there already. This is what I love, being in the process of it, being in the personal development of it, being in the journey of building my business, having it to share and to document, and all the insights and all the things like that, that it's like having that when we're in this mindset of what got me here won't get me there, we're often in this rush to be there, in this rush to change things, in this rush to try and be different. And we think being there, we're going to feel so much better. We're going to feel more peaceful. We're going to feel calmer. We're finally going to feel successful. Instead of, I'm actually going to feel successful now and generate that for myself now and feel connected now and use that as the fuel to achieve my goals. So that is where I am at with this thought. And there's no blame for anyone sharing a thought of what got me here won't get me there. I think it's just so helpful to look at what is that thought. If there's anything like that, it might be that or something different that like your brain has latched onto and you find yourself repeating it as a mantra, if you will. So like, wait, who actually said that? And was that designed for someone at my level of business and in my circumstance? Really good to check that out because it might be great advice for someone in a different situation, but you hadn't realized that. You just thought, and we often do this with a perfectionist or nothing brain, all the advice that's out there on business is for me. Instead of actually, really, when everyone creates things for a business owner, content, for example, they're thinking about a specific kind of business owner at a specific stage of business, with a specific problem that they're solving at that specific point in time. So it's really important to discern, is this for someone in my stage of business and in my circumstance? And to be able to discern and to start to look at, okay, if I have this thought of what got me here won't get me there, for example, how does that show up? Like, how do I feel when I think that thought? For me, I feel like that thought brings up this kind of like hopeful feeling of like I get to have a do-over, like I get to like do completely new things and get out of feeling like I'm failing. But then when I play that out in terms of actions, it has me not do the things that work and try and do new things that obviously will take time to start working. So then I experience failure and then my perfectionist brain makes that mean I'm not good enough. And then when I'm feeling not good enough, then it's much harder to succeed. So just looking at like any of those little unconscious mantras that we adopt to start to have some critical thinking about it, to discern, is this meant for someone at my stage of business in my circumstance with the goals that I have and the problems that I'm solving? And to just play out, okay, if this is what I'm thinking, how do I feel when I think that? Because it might be a positive feeling. It might be excited, might be hopeful, might be optimistic. Probably is my guess. We tend to be like, oh, this is exciting. But then how does that show up in your actions? Does that have you keep doing what's working and then also figure out something else on the side and get that working and transition across, or get what's working even more? Or does it have you abandon ship and do a 180 and start from scratch? And even though our perfectionist brain loves that feeling of starting from scratch because we feel like, now I can just be in the hope about the future being perfect, we don't want to start from scratch. And it's not going to help. You will end up feeling like more of a failure if you keep starting from scratch again and again. So that's where I'm going to leave this episode. I hope it's been really helpful. I just wish someone had articulated for me what thought might be more helpful for my perfectionist brain than what got me here won't get me there. And that's the core of what got you here will get you there. And you're just going to be doing a pretty similar thing in front of more people or with more customers. For example, it's not to say things won't change. I know you might listen and think, oh, I'm different. But the core of it, the essence of it is going to continue, is going to be the thing that continues to work. You just haven't realized yet what that core is and that it's working because you're focused on all the things you're not doing right. So I hope that helps. I hope that is really, really helpful to hear. And I'm just thinking, do I have anything else to say before I wrap up this episode? I don't think I do. And I'm really excited for doing 2 episodes a week and sharing more episodes like this. I'm going to be sharing more behind the scenes episodes again, sharing my numbers, my thinking, like what's going on behind the scenes, because I know you guys love those episodes so much. And I love creating those episodes, and also we'll be teaching concepts and tools and all the different things as well. So if you aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so new episodes come up on your feed. And we are doing an opening for Perfectionists Getting Shit Done, PGSD, which is my coaching program for perfectionist entrepreneurs. We are doing an opening on the 30th of January for 1 week only. So if you aren't yet on the PGSD waitlist, you want to be on it. That's going to tell you more about the program, and you're going to be able to get all the updates about it opening so that you don't miss the opening, because we are only open for a week and then we won't be open again till later in the year. So you want to be inside. You want to be in there. So samlarabrown.com/PGSD is where you can go to find out more about the program and also sign up for the waitlist as well. I will leave this there. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will talk to you in the next episode. If you enjoy this podcast, I recommend signing up for the waitlist for my program called Perfectionists Getting Shit Done, aka PGSD. This is a program designed to help you get out of your own way in your business. You're going to learn how to release your perfectionism handbrake by setting a growth goal for your business, planning properly as a perfectionist with power planning, and getting regular guilt-free clean rest. You'll learn the skills required to get out of your own way and be supported every step of the way to do it. To find out more about the program and join the waitlist today, go to samlarabrown.com/PGSD.